Hello, I'm Tim Shoebridge. Welcome to this video. The subject of this video is a rather unexpected new addition to my studio. This was an impulse buy a couple of months ago. Here it is. It's actually rather heavy, solidly built. It's the STVC from Waldorf. Now, this keyboard was released a couple of years ago now, back in 2020. There are plenty of videos about it online, so I'm not going to try and recreate any of those videos. I'm not going to do a full review of this little instrument. And in terms of demonstrations, I just want to give a shout out to Daniel Fisher. Please check out his demonstration on Sweetwater of this instrument. His demonstration is absolutely inspired. It's brilliant. I'm going to leave a link to it in the description below. So as I say, I'm not going to cover all the details of this instrument. There is plenty of information about it online. It is a sort of like a version 2, if you like, of a little desktop module that Waldorf came out with quite a long time ago now, called the Streichfett. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Now that Streichfett is a reimagining, it's an all-digital reimagining of the original string machine or string synthesizer from back in the very early 1970s. It's capable of creating some wonderful warm choir sounds and string sounds and more of that besides. Now, the STVC builds on that Streichfett in a number of really key ways. I mean, first of all, it's a keyboard as opposed to a little tiny desktop module. It's also got a little OLED display on it, which means you can get access to lots of parameters, synth parameters that you can't do on the original Streichfett, which really extends the sound palette that you can get out of this instrument. Also, it's a vocoder, and I'm not a vocoder expert. I'm not really into vocoders a great deal, but I've had so much fun and creativity with this STVC using its vocoder, and that is what I'm going to be concentrating on in this video. The STVC's vocoder capabilities, as well as what is called the tweak button. Now, when you press the tweak button, that accesses for you a mod matrix, which really does, as I say, open up this synth's capabilities. Those are the two things I'm going to be concentrating on in this video, because those are the two things that really surprised me and I've had so much fun using for the last couple of months. So that's what's coming up with this video. I really do hope it's of interest to you. As always, thank you very, very much for watching. Right, so the first thing I want to demonstrate to you with the STVC and its vocoder section is this button here that's lit called freeze. Now, I'm not an expert with vocoders, but I've not come across a keyboard before that has a vocoder freeze function, and I think it's really, really brilliant. It's a lot of fun to use, and it's very creative as well. You know, rather than having to be constantly talking into a microphone or singing into a microphone when you're playing a vocoder, or providing some other audio into the instrument, what you can do with the STVC is you can record a small little audio segment, which it will then loop round and round and round continuously. And you can get some really interesting creative and rhythmic effects by doing this. Now, I've recorded a little sentence into the STVC already with the microphone, which I've removed so that we can see better the top panel. And the sentence that I've come up with was the first thing that came into my mind when I thought about vocoder, and it's this sentence. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. Yeah, not very original, is it? But never mind. That's what I've got recorded into the STVC, and it will keep looping it. Now, it will reset when you take all your fingers off the keys, which is the only caveat with the freeze function. So you've got to be sort of careful to keep if you want it to be looping round and round and round, to keep at least one of your keys down as you play, but it sounds like this.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me.
Now you're going to hear that a lot as I do this demonstration, so you're probably going to get sick and tired of hearing me saying that sentence over and over again, but unfortunately it is the best way for me to demonstrate the synth. So that's the freeze function, and we've got that going on. Now, wouldn't it be great if we could change the speed with which it loops round and plays that little segment? Well, there's no way on the front panel to do this, but we have a button here called Tweak. And this is an amazing new feature with the STVC. It's not there with the original Streifet. And I guess you really do need a little OLED display to be able to use the tweak functionality properly. If I press it, what we get here is a little menu. Well, it's not a menu, it's actually a little mod matrix. We've got 5 slots in our mod matrix where we can modulate parameters of the synthesizer engines or the vocoder engines, or we could just set values. Now, the parameters that you can set are numerous. There are numerous modulation destinations, ones that you just don't have access to on the front panel, and it really does open up the whole sound capabilities of the STVC by providing this little mod matrix. It's very, very, very good, I have to say. So let's just come back to my example of wanting to change the speed with which the freeze function is looping around on my audio. Now, there is a destination in here. So I'm going to, rather than choose a modulation source and a destination and an amount, which is what you can do here, and I'll show you that in a minute, you can just say, I want to set this value to this amount, not using a mod source, just set an absolute value. So that's what we're going to do here. And I've got here freeze speed. There's a whole load of different destinations to choose from. I'm not going to go through them all. Let's just go to freeze speed, and then I've got a value which I can set for the freeze speed. Now, this value inside this little mod matrix here is from 0 to 127, so no surprises there, and that means that 63 is the midway position. So if I set the value to 63 and then hold down some notes,
from here to eternity, that's where she takes,
we get the regular speed, but I can increase the value and speed it up, or decrease the value and slow it down like this.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to
all the way up
eternity,
to this.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where.
And I can slow it down.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity. From here to eternity.
This kind of thing sounds better with a little bit of reverb, I have to say.
From here to eternity.
Now, obviously, you don't have to be, looping a very well-known sentence. It could be any sound you like, anything you want to record into the STVC. Any sound, it could be another instrument you're playing, it could be the dog barking, it could be anything at all. You can get some really interesting and creative ideas by messing around with the speed with which that loop plays. And you can actually go right down to stopping the loop completely. So if I take it right down to 0, now there's no looping, it's literally granular synthesis at this point. We're just listening to that one single point in time. But then I let go of the keys and it goes back to the beginning again. So let me What else do I want to show you? So as well as being able to control the speed, you can also control the sort of the playback position, the playhead position within that sample. Let's go on to another line in our little mod matrix here, and this time I'm going to set freeze position. And again, we've got our 0 to 127. 0 means right at the very start, 127 means right at the very end, and we can go anywhere in between. So we can get these kind of effects.
From here to 30, that's where you think he shows the views that are saying. Here to 30, that's where you think he shows the views that are saying. Here to 30, that's where you think the views are saying. From here to 30, that's where you think he shows the views that are saying. That's where she takes me.
So we can go backwards and forwards through that vocoder sample, which is kind of like a wavetable really, but with a vocoder. It's a really, really cool thing to do. And we can modulate this if we want to. Now, one thing to mention is when you get on to looking at the modulation sources that are available here, there are tons and tons of them. What I didn't realize until I started playing around with the STVC is how many different LFOs there are inside these synth engines. We've got a tremolo effect here with the solo synth engine. Well, that's got a little LFO behind it to sort of determine the rate at which the tremolo works. In the string synth engine, we've got a chorus, an ensemble effect basically. We've got a chorus with two different speeds which can be playing at the same time, and there are two different LFOs that control those speeds. When we look at these effects over here on the far right, we've got an animate and a phaser. They both have their own LFOs to set their own speeds, so we've got at least 5 LFOs here. I think it's 5, it might even be 6. A whole load of different LFOs that we can use as mod sources to manipulate all of the synth parameters going on here. It's actually a real shame we've only got a 5-slot mod matrix. It would be lovely to have another page worth, but never mind. What I'm going to do is choose one of the LFOs that we've got here to modulate this position so that we can hear going backwards and forwards through my little sentence that I've recorded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this row as it is and set this to 63, which is halfway through my my whole loop, and then I'm going to choose a third row, and we're going to go for choosing the mod source. I'm going to choose one of the LFOs, and the one I'm going to choose is LFO A. LFO A stands for the animate LFO, and I can easily get at the rate of it by switching this switch up to animate, and now this rate is controlling the rate of that LFO. So I've got full control over this particular LFO now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it to modulate the position and turn it up a bit, and let's see what happens.
That's where she shows the views. 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 Here to eternity. That's where she he shows the views. Here to eternity. That's where she he shows the views. Here to eternity. That's where she he shows the views. Here to eternity. That's where she
So you can hear it going forwards and then backwards through that sample.
He shows the views. Here to eternity. That's where she he shows the views. Here to eternity. That's where she he shows the views. Here to eternity. That's where she he shows the views. Here to eternity. That's where she
It's really a load of fun. Something else that I want to show you now is we've got a modulation wheel here and a pitch bend wheel, and what I originally wanted to try out was, well, can I speed up or slow down the speed of the loop of the vocoder freeze function using the pitch bend wheel, and that's what I'll show you now. Let me just get rid of these modulations. So the first challenge with using the pitch bend wheel is that the pitch bend wheel by default is a pitch bend wheel. So it bends the pitch.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me.
So the first thing I needed to figure out was how to stop it from bending the pitch so I could use it for the other thing that I want to use it for. And what I discovered was that if you were to apply in the little mod matrix here an equal and opposite modulation to the one that it does in its normal job, then you can negate it and stop it from bending pitch. I'll just show you what I mean if that sounds complicated. If I choose as the mod source the pitch bend wheel, you'll see with all of these mod sources you can apply them positively or negatively. So I've got a bend plus and I've got a bend minus. And what we want to do to negate the pitch bend wheel is to apply a negative modulation. So I'm going to choose bend minus. And then what I'm going to do is choose as the mod destination, I'm going to choose the pitch, like that. And through trial and error, I've found that the value here of 20 is exactly the right amount to be the equal and opposite of what the pitch bend wheel does. So with minus 20 here, modulating pitch, I actually get rid of the pitch bend effect.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where.
So that's just a little trick for you. If you want to use the pitch bend wheel to modulate something else and you want to stop it from bending the pitch, then just create one row in here which is minus 20 and it will negate it. So now it's negated, we can move on and use the pitch bend wheel to change the speed of our freeze loop. So I'm now going to go and find pitch bend, but I'm going to use it positively this time, and I'm going to modulate the speed. And okay, we'll leave that at 63. So let's see what happens now.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity.
And get all those kinds of effects going on. And one thing that I discovered is if you whack up that value to maximum, so 127, then listen to what happens when I pull the pitch bend wheel down.
From here to eternity, that's
it plays it in reverse at half the speed.
From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me. From here to eternity, that's where she takes me.
It's a lot of fun, it really is, and then you start to experiment with capturing different loops, different sounds, and coming up with some really quite interesting stuff. I really do think that this little freeze function plus this tweak menu, this little mod matrix here, combined together with a very simple interface in this really quite compact but solidly built keyboard, with this vocoder function in here, it just opens up a whole load of possibilities. There's a ton of stuff that you can do with the STVC. It's really a fun and creative little keyboard. I absolutely love it, and I'm very, very glad that I had an impulse purchase and I bought one. It's a load of fun. Definitely try it out.
Last years of the 19th century, that human affairs were being watched from the timeless worlds of space. No one could have dreamed that we were being scrutinized as someone with a microscope studies creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. Few men even considered the possibility of life on other planets. And yet, across the gulf of space, minds immeasurably superior to ours regarded this earth with envious eyes. And slowly and surely,